Hello everyone, this is Atman and my YouTube channel dedicated to spirituality and self-knowledge. Today, I would like to speak about consciousness and the I am. I am is very well known by Srini Sarkadata Maharaj, a very well known spiritual teacher, Jnani. Jnani means the one that has realized his true nature and is established in her true nature. So what is consciousness? What is the sense I am? We are human beings. With composed our nature is composed by various elements. There are different various levels of existence. We exist as a body, as vital energy. We exist as emotional beings, mental beings, intellectual beings. We have centered this sense of I or ego, and there is also subconscious mind. And beyond all this, there is consciousness. We are a multidimensional beings and consciousness beyond all dimensions of our existence. Today, I will not speak about the physical realm, body, vital energy, nor about the mind, the intellect. I will focus mostly on this famous sense, I am, and consciousness. In reality, what I will do is a discriminative exploration or inquiry into the nature of consciousness and the sense I am. What we think we are, it is the person, the physical form, and the person having as a center the sense of I or ego. What we really are is consciousness. Bole Baba Ki Jai. Bole Baba Ki Jai. Sihe akan Bhagwani Ki Jai. Greetings to all. And glory to Babaji and our divine, our beloved divine teacher, Guru. So, what we really are is consciousness expressing itself through this physical, mental, intellectual form that has as its center this element we call ego, this sense of I, this body is me. From Renegade, very good. I have passed much time, many years in Ranigate, especially in the ashram of Babaji in Chilianola. So enjoy Ranigate, very nice place. So we apparently are this physical form which has a mind, intellect to live this life and has as the center the ego or I. And there is consciousness beyond them, which is the source and the background of all other aspects of our life. This consciousness is experienced as a still, silent space, as deep silence, profound silence, and it is always present in our experience as the immovable, unchangeable background of our experience. As an object appears in the physical space, in the sky, for example, we can see the sun in the sky. The sky appears in the sky. It is the empty space which enables the sun to exist in this space, physical space. Similarly, this consciousness, which is impossible to describe, it is always present in the timeless now. What do we say here and now, or present moment? It's a timeless. It is not in the time. It's beyond this concept of time and space as well. And we cannot describe this. However, we can say experientially, we experience this consciousness as a deep silence and tells of freedom, peace, and plenitude, fullness. We feel complete when our mind dwells, abides in this silence. It's not an empty silence in the sense of nothing. Although it is not something, it is not nothing at all. It is something mysterious. We experience this mysterious, empty, silent space of consciousness as fullness, freedom, peace, and bliss without beyond words. It cannot be described, this experience. It is what we call non-dual experience, because the experiencer and the experience are in the same consciousness. However, this element we call ego creates a duality. As long this element of individuality called ego appears in our experience, it is like me, this person, I experience the peace, plenitude of consciousness, which is not true. What really happens is that consciousness experiences itself, but the ego creates the illusion that we, as the individual person, entity, we experience the silent or the silence of consciousness. So this consciousness is something that is always here and now, in the timeless now, present, but because of our mind conditioning, which creates constantly energetical, energetic, emotional, and mental waves, disturbances, we can say, this empty space of consciousness, it is somehow covered, but not totally. And in the foreground of our experience is the experience of all these emotional, mental, intellectual expressions, and also the sensory experiences. In every moment, we could say that we live in three dimensions: the physical external world, which also includes energetical aspects, energy. We experience also, for example, there is in some place, for example, as in the ashram of Babaji, we would say, the energy is very alive and very vibrating, luminous vibrations that exist in the ashram of Babaji. So we don't only experience the place physically, but also we experience this place energetically. So this is the external dimension of our life. The internal dimension are all mental, emotional, intellectual formations of any kind. And the three aspects of our experience is consciousness. Consciousness is always present as the background, the silent background, but it's always present as awareness, meaning that is the light that enables us to have experience. In order to experience something we eat, the taste, we need, or it is needed, a factor, an element, and this element is consciousness. Consciousness expressing itself through the mind becomes what we call attention, awareness. I want here to say that these two words, consciousness and awareness, can be used in different ways. So please be careful, because I use them in a very specific way. So for some, like Nisargadatta Maharaj, who of course have spoken in some Indian language, but I know the translation, he used awareness as the deepest aspect of our existence and consciousness as something related to the mind. But I don't use this. So do not try to understand these two concepts of awareness and consciousness in the same way that Nisargadatta, for example, this is only one example, use these words. So forget it. For me, consciousness and awareness in some cases are one and the same principle. But in some cases, awareness has a little bit different meaning, like I'm aware of something. When I taste, for example, cheers, this is a tea. So I taste this specific taste, I have this experience. To have this experience, what is needed is what we call attention. But attention is also awareness. I'm aware of this specific taste of this tea. This is awareness. We could also say that this is consciousness, because I am aware of this T, and I'm conscious also. In this example, awareness consciousness is at least for me, is the same thing. They are not two different things. So I am aware of this tea. I am aware of the cup. I am aware of the taste. Okay. And at the same time, I am aware that I am aware of the tea, that the tea is something different than me. I am aware of the tea. I'm not the tea. I'm something different than the tea. What makes this difference? The experience, this I-ness. I'm something different than the tea. So the I is the individuality. We call this I also ego, which we always use as a negative factor. And of course, the lower aspect of the ego is a negative factor in our psyche, a problematic one. However, the sattvic aspect or part of the ego is something we need to function in the world and becomes the instrument, the sattvic ego or I, along with the sattvic mind at all levels. Sattvic emotional mind, sattvic mental mind, thinking mind, sattvic intellectual mind, intellect, and also the sattvic part of subconscious mind. All these sattvic aspects of our mind are the instrument through which consciousness expresses itself and through which the consciousness can experience itself. There are some teachers, famous ones, modern teachers at least in the West, that say consciousness does not need anything to experience itself. It's self-luminous, it's self-conscious, which is quite correct. But without the aid of the instrument, which is the mind in this case, it cannot experience itself in the same way that us, we cannot see our eyes or our face without using a mirror. Of course, we are the conscious element. It's not the mirror. But the mirror is the instrument we need to become aware of our face. So we see in the mirror a reflection of our face so that we recognize that this reflection is us. Of course, the reflection is not this alive body face person, but is only a reflection. However, in the case of consciousness and the mind, is not like this. Because the mind is alive and is an expression of consciousness as an instrument that it is used by consciousness to experience itself. It is not that the mind has the capacity to experience consciousness. Of course, mind consciousness does not belong to the mind. Mind cannot function without consciousness. It is consciousness, the reflection of consciousness, that enables the mind to become the subject of our experiences, having as the center this element we call I or ego. This sense of I, identified with the body, is a part aspect of the mind. And when I say mind, I do not refer only to the thoughts or thoughts thinking process. No, mind is something much more, much bigger, and has different various levels, qualities, capacities. So, because I see also that say, okay, mind is just thoughts. So if you go beyond thoughts, you are there is no mind. No, it's not true. Because mind is not only the thought processes. Mind also is desiring. Mind is also feelings and emotions. Mind is also discrimination, the capacity to discern between this or that. And if you read the book of Viveka of Adi Shankaracharya and other books, say very clearly, say about the discrimination between the self Atman and the not self Anatman, that is the body, mind, thoughts, emotions, ego, etc. What is the instrument that enables us to discriminate between the self and the non-self? It is the mind, its aspect we call intellect, and more specifically, the higher or sattvic aspect of intellect that some and I also we call intelligence. Consciousness is also intelligence of a different kind. But the higher aspect of intellect, it is also intelligence and has this very high capacity to discern between the self and the non-self. And how we can be sure that the mind makes this discrimination? It's very simple. The animals cannot discriminate between the self and not self. What makes a great difference between animals and human beings is this capacity we call discrimination or discernment. This is one of the highest capacities of human beings that we need to develop, because it is not developed. It is not something that develops by itself as our body does. We just have to eat. All other processes for the development of the body happen by themselves. But just by eating, discrimination and other also higher capacities of mind at all levels do not develop. We need to do something about this. So this discernment that enables us to discern between the consciousness. When we say the self, we mean consciousness, the silent space, empty space of consciousness, and the not or non-self, which is all the rest. Everything except the silent space of consciousness is the non-self, what we are not. What we really are, it is this empty silent space of consciousness. And of course, all the rest are the instruments of consciousness. Because of the development of the lower ego, all these instruments are used by the ego for its own interests. Our ego wants pleasures, wants power, want comforts, wants money, wants this or that of this external world in order to experience security, pleasure, pleasant experiences, pleasurable experiences, happiness as well, joy, security, specialness, superiority, etc. This is the world of ego, and mostly of the lower ego. So when our mind at all levels is dominated by the lower ego, although we are consciousness, and consciousness is always present in our every moment experience, we live as a body, mind, me entity, ignorant of our divine nature or consciousness, and fully identified with the physical form and all the expressions, formations created by the mind, conditioned by the ego, lower ego, and egoistic tendencies. Now, this consciousness reflects itself onto the sattvic part of the mind. And the teachers say the sattvic part of intellect, mostly, but I understand also the sattvic part of the inner mind, we call mostly subconscious. But to say only subconscious, it's partially correct. Because by saying this inner mind as subconscious mind, we mean that this is the store of all past experiences, programming patterns, etc. But it's not only this. Memory also, because this inner part of the mind, it is the part that makes the inquiries, contemplation. It's not the intellect that contemplates, not the intellect, neither the intellect nor the manas, the external mind. External mind, in Sanskrit, it is called manas, and the intermediate mind, it is called buddhi. And the inner mind, it is called chitta. Chitta is not only subconscious. It is, but it's not only this. It is also the part of the mind that enables us to connect consciously with the consciousness. We enter in the inner mind to fully experience our divine nature. We cannot experience fully our divine nature when we dwell in the external mind or intellect. Not possible. We have to enter in the deepest layers of our mind, which is chitta, or inner mind, or subconscious, but it's not enough. Because when we do meditation, we enter in the inner part of the mind consciously. And this is the difference between deep meditation and samadhi, which is the culmination of meditation, with deep sleep. During deep sleep, we are in the inner mind, but we lack consciousness. We are not aware of what is happening during the deep sleep state. On the contrary, during meditation, we enter in this inner mind, but consciously. We are conscious. That's why we experience our divine nature consciousness, but in reality, consciousness experiences itself, not us. This is the illusion that is caused by the factor we call ego. In meditation, we function through the higher aspect of the ego, the sattvic ego, which is not problematic. It's only like an instrument, a vehicle that enables us to practice meditation, to enter consciously in our deepest part of our existence. We need this mind and sattvic ego, because without them, meditation is impossible. How can be? How could be this meditation? Otherwise, animals also could meditate consciously, but they cannot. Okay, some teachers say that animals experience that because they have not ego and conditioning like human beings, they experience consciousness. If it is like this, so why to be people, human beings? No sense. It makes no sense to me. Because they have not this inner instrument we call buddhi, higher buddhi, that enables us to be conscious, to experience consciously our consciousness. Okay, the animals probably, since there is no ego, live in the consciousness express itself through them without obstructions, but they are not conscious of it. There is no consciousness. It's like the babies. The babies have not developed yet the ego. That's why we love them, because at least most of them, their vibration is very high, very luminous, very harmonious. That's why we love them. We say that they are innocent. Okay, they are innocent, but this is not only the case. They are vibrating a very lovely, harmonious frequency. This is the point. That's why we see them innocent and lovely and whatever. It's the quality of the energy. Sorry. So, consciousness reflects onto the mind, the sattvic part of the mind, and causes this combination, we would say, of the sattvic part of the mind and pure consciousness creates the reflection of consciousness, which is experienced as this sense I exist or I am, and as a presence. This presence is very famous. This word term presence is very famous by the teacher Eckhart Tolle, very famous teacher in the West, Eckhart Tolle, known for his book called The Power of Now. And he speaks about consciousness as a presence. But for me, this presence, which is consciousness, of course, it's the reflection of consciousness. It is like the sunlight, the sunlight reflects onto the moon, and we see the moonlight. Moonlight is the reflected sunlight on the moon. And this is a very nice example. The sunlight and the moonlight. The moonlight is sunlight, but the sunlight reflected on the surface of the moon. Similarly, the light of consciousness reflects itself on the mind, and this reflection on the sattvic part of the mind gives birth to this sense I exist or I am. But I am I am, this M has various meanings. It means also identity. One of the most important meanings of the word I am or am, because I is the ego, individual or individuality. M can be identity and mostly identified with the physical form, but means also existence. I am means also I exist. So that's why when this pure consciousness reflects on the mind, on the sattvic part of the mind, gives birth to this sense of existence. And because of I, we identify this sense of existence with the physical form, and especially the lower aspect of the mind, of the ego, identifies this sense of exist with the form, the physical form, and also it is experienced as a presence. Now you hear me, and then and at the same time you can be aware that you are present. I'm here, and I watch and I listen to this presentation, to this talk. The problem is that the moment, most of the time, I mean generally, not about you, people lose themselves in the experience, whether it is a sensory experience, to what they see, to what they feel, to what they hear, and also to the reaction towards this experience, sensory experience, to what they feel, to what they think about. For example, cheers. I drink this tea in my mind. Oh, very nice tea. This very nice, and I feel something pleasant or pleasurable. Oh, very nice tea. I can communicate this using words, but I mean now just mentally, thoughts. Oh, very nice tea. I like this. I want to drink again. So people are lose themselves in the experience of the taste and in the experience of the pleasant sensation and the thoughts related to this. Ah, very nice tea. I would like. It's the first time I have tasted this tea. Ah, very nice. Where can we find some to buy, some to take some with us? All the problem is thoughts by themselves is not a problem. Of course, if they are very negative way of thinking, it's a problem as well. But saying, "Oh, very nice tea," it's not a problem by itself. But the problem is that we lose ourselves in the experience of tea and to the emotional feeling related to this experience and to the thoughts that occur in our mind. And we lose contact with the sense I exist or I am and the inner silence, which is what we really are and which is always full. This is the point. We could say that we exchange a little bit pleasurable sensations and emotional pleasantness with the eternal plenitude, peace, and bliss of our infinite, unlimited nature, which is always here and now. It's always free. We do not need any external condition to experience it. Only we need a calm, focused mind and willingness. But because of ignorance or I don't know, ignorance and consciousness game of life, you can say this as you like. People lose themselves in the experience, which is not bad, not good. It's just an experience. Of course, there are other experiences we could say that are bad. For example, drinking a lot and becoming drunker is not a good thing because it causes many problems at all levels. So, I mean, about a natural experience, drinking a tea. Not bad, not good, just an experience. We can drink this tea consciously, fully aware of the tea and fully aware of the inner silence and plenitude without losing ourselves in the experience of the tea and the pleasant emotional, energetic sensations. This is the problem. It appears more interesting, the tea, than our divine self, divine consciousness, which is whole, blissful, peaceful. And there, in the consciousness, we never lack anything. You don't live in separation. You don't live in this sense of insufficiency, of lack of, I need something to feel okay. When our mind rests deeply in this silence, we are complete. But for some reasons of the game of life, and because of the conditioning of our mind, we lose ourselves in the experience and the reactions, mental emotion reactions that our mind creates in relation to this experience, and we take them as our life, which is only a very small part of our life. It's not our life drinking a tea. It's nothing important, nothing important, just an experience. Okay, you can say that, okay, tea is something very insignificant, but other aspects of life are very significant. I would say that they are not. They are more significant than tea, of course, but they are not more significant to our true nature. At least this is my experience and understanding. Of course, having, for example, um, how to say, a job that we enjoy and we want to do this job for us and for the good of the humanity. Okay, something important. I don't say no. But more important than this is our divine nature. And of course, we can uh, do our job, this work of being doctor, medical, much more well if we do this in conscious connection with our divine nature. Because we are human beings and we need more than the technical knowledge and skills and capacities. We need humanity, to be humans, to develop love, unconditional love, compassion, empathy, kindness, to interchange energy in a very harmonious way. It's not only to do our job. So, also, for one person, being a football player is very important. For another one, it's not important at all. So, if the things of the life had an importance, uh, intimate importance, then all would have the same attitude towards them. But for one person, it's very important to be a football player. For another one, to be a doctor. For another one, to be an artist and dancer, whatever. For one person, it's very important to be father or mother and have children. For another one, it's not important at all. So, things are important, interesting, or whatever, according to our inner state of consciousness, education, conditioning, programming of our mind. It's not something objective. Otherwise, we should have all the same attitude to the same for the same thing. So, for me, to be a football player was the most important thing in my life when I was 16 years old. Nothing else it was interesting for me. The only thing I wanted to do is to become a football player, a good football player, nothing else. And my mother was like, why you do this? She was so different. It was so boring to speak about football. So, what's the importance of football? There is no importance at all. It's only in our mind, in my mind in this case. But consciousness is important because it is life itself. Without consciousness, there is no life. And also, without being conscious of this consciousness, we cannot experience fulfillment or to live in fulfillment and in a complete life, a meaningful life, a totally meaningful life. There is no possibility to experience fullness without experiencing our true nature. It's just an impossibility. True happiness, everlasting happiness, unlimited happiness exists only in our true nature, and also there is happiness to the sattvic part of the mind. So we need to transform our mind in a completely sattvic mind at all levels. Emotional mind, mental, thinking mind, intellect, subconscious mind, all must become totally sattvic. Because only in a sattvic mind, a complete sattvic mind can consciousness experienced fully, clearly fully. All the rajasic, tamasic elements in our psyche disrupt the experience of consciousness, the fullness of consciousness, to some degree, depending on the strength, the power, how strong they are. These elements of rajas and tamas in our psyche, in our subconscious mind, etc. The purer our mind is, the purer, clearer, deeper is the experience of the peace, freedom, plenitude, bliss of our true nature. So, I return to the sense I exist. This sense I exist, which is created by the reflection of consciousness onto the sattvic part of the mind, it is also experienced as a presence. It is the door to connect consciously with the source of this I-ness, which we call pure consciousness, which is consciousness before being reflected on the sattvic part of the mind. As I said before, we have the sunlight and the moonlight. And the moonlight is only a reflection of the sunlight. It is not a different kind of light. It's the same light, the sunlight, reflected on the moon. Similarly, this sense I exist. And presence is the reflection of pure consciousness in our sattvic part of the mind. And because of the lower ego, this sense I exist is identified with the physical form. That's why we feel, it's important to say, not only we believe or only we think, we feel this body is me. I feel it here. This body is me. Why? Because of the lower ego, which is an energy field in us. It is not just a thought that many teachers say, even great teachers have said this. It is not correct. The ego is not a thought. We could say that it's a mind's creation. Okay, it's a different thing because mind is not only thoughts, it's also emotions. But mind is also energy, psychic energy. It's like the sunlight. The sunlight in reality has no color, it's colorless. But when there is a little bit rain, then this reflection of sunlight in the rain creates what we call a rainbow. So we see at least 7 colors from the blue, I don't know, the series, the order of colors. Okay, we see the green color, yellow color, red color, etc. 7 colors, the main the 7 main colors we see in the rainbow. Without the rain, we don't see the light. We cannot see light. We can see the light when it reflects on a surface. So we see, for example, the leaves of a tree as green leaves. This green color does not belong to the leaves. It is the reflected light, sunlight on the leaves, and this reflected sunlight comes through the medium of leaves in our retina, goes in the nervous system, um, it comes to me in Spanish, in the brain, and in the mind it becomes green color. So the colors are inherent in the sunlight, but in order to see them, we need a medium, like the rain, which enables us to see the 7 main colors of sunlight. So the ego, which is energy, is some specific vibrational frequency of the psychic energy. Thoughts are also some kind of energy. Emotions are some kind of energy. Everything is some kind of energy. And every expression has a very specific frequency. For example, one frequency has the anger, another the fear. That's why we experience all this gamma of emotions, all this, how we say this, uh, doesn't come the word. Anyway, all these kind of emotions, fear, anger, jealousy, greed, are energy. Some kind of energy having a very specific frequency. That's why we experience them differently. Another taste has the fear, another taste has anger, irritability, or impatience. There is a taste. Every emotion has a very specific taste, which is the result of the frequency of the energy related to this emotion. So the ego also is some specific expression of the psychic energy. That's why it is very, this feeling of I is very uh, uh, strongly connected with the physical form. We cannot, if we need very to focus very well our attention, awareness, attention, and to discriminate between the physical aspect and the energetic aspect of I-ness. We feel that this body is me, as if this sense of me were something that belongs to the body. Was, not were. As this sense of me was something that belongs to the body, but it does not belong. This sense of me is something in the body, subtler of the body. It's energetic field. energy field. This energy field, which we call ego, and some say that it just is a thought, it's not a thought, because we feel the body is us, identifies fully with the physical form, and we feel the body is ourselves. And everything that happens in this physical form, it is also ourselves. Now, consciousness reflects on the sattvic part of the mind. It creates this sense of existence and presence. And because this element we call ego, which is mostly psychic energy, identifies with this presence and existence, but does not identify with the silent space of consciousness, it cannot do this, but identifies with this sense of existence, we feel that we, as the ego, we are present and conscious, and we exist as the ego. And because of the lower ego, we identify this sense of existence and presence with the physical form. I'm present. Who is present? Me, the physical person. I'm present. While in reality, presence is the reflected consciousness. It's something like to say the moon. The moonlight is me, but the moonlight belongs to the sunlight. It is an expression of the sunlight that reflects on the moon. And because moon lives in ignorance, say, this light is my light, belongs to me, to the physical form of the moon. But not, this reflection belongs to the sunlight. Of course, the medium of moon is necessary to have a reflection. Without having a medium, reflection is impossible. We need a mirror to see the reflection of our face in the mirror. We need a moon to see the reflection of sunlight on the moon. And we need a mind to have a reflection of the pure consciousness on the mind, onto the mind. And this reflection of consciousness is experienced as the sense I am, I exist, with the meaning I exist, because I am also means I am this or that. It's different thing. I am also means I exist. I have an existence. I exist. And I am present, conscious. Present means I'm conscious. And because of the lower ego, these two main aspects of the reflected consciousness are identified with the physical form and to the ego itself. I, the ego, which also I am the body, I'm conscious, I'm present, conscious, and I exist. And this is the main knot of illusion. The two appear as one. That means the reflected consciousness and the medium of reflection, which is the mind, but the mind belongs to the body, appear as one. So consciousness, this sense of existence and presence, consciousness appear to be intimate or an expression of the body, mind, me entity, which is just an illusion. Because consciousness does not belong to any dimension. It's beyond dimensions of any kind. It's beyond energy. It's beyond physical forms, mental forms, emotional forms, any kind of forms. But miraculously, this consciousness reflects itself on the mind, and this reflection on the sattvic part of the mind causes this sense of existence, I exist, and presence, I am conscious. Both of them belong to the consciousness, but they cannot also exist without the medium of the mind, of the sattvic mind. It cannot be any reflection without the medium of reflection. We need the medium and we need the source, that which reflects itself on the medium or on the instrument. And the mind is the instrument on which pure consciousness reflects itself. So we have pure consciousness before any reflection, which is very deep silence, indescribable and changeless. We have reflected consciousness experienced as a presence and sense of existence. And because of the ego, this sense of existence and consciousness presence becomes I exist, I am present. And because of the lower ego, we identify this sense of existence and presence with the physical form and, of course, the mind, because mind belongs to this form. So this is the main structure. We have physical form. In the middle, mind having, as I said, that the ego. And we have pure consciousness. Physical form. In the middle, mind and the ego as the center of the mind. And consciousness. Consciousness reflects itself on the mind. So we have this reflection which is experience of consciousness, which is experienced as as a sense of existence and presence. And because of the ego becomes I am present, I exist. And because of the lower ego, it is identified both, they are identified both existence and consciousness and presence with the physical form and the mind, of course. So, what is the purpose of spirituality? It is to discern them and realize that one thing is the physical form, another thing is mind and ego, another thing is reflected consciousness, the sense of existence and consciousness as presence, and another thing is the inner silent empty space of consciousness, pure consciousness. They are different elements experienced as one. And because of lack of consciousness, discrimination, and knowledge, we cannot discern what is each of them, what really is each of them, and we do not discern, realize that we are the consciousness and not the body. That's why when awakening happens, what happens is that in a flash, it is realized by no one. I use very carefully my words. It is realized by no one that consciousness is what we are. That not that we, not we, because we means I, ego. We realize that consciousness is what we are. It's different thing to say I am. I means me, this entity, individual entity. I am consciousness. No. The correct way to say this is this consciousness is what I am, which is a different thing. Not I am consciousness. This consciousness is what I am. It has nothing to do with me. The me is only a vehicle, an instrument of this consciousness, which is used by consciousness to experience fully itself and express fully itself in the all dimensions. Okay. So, what we call spirituality, in fact, has as a main or highest purpose to realize that the consciousness is what we really are and not this physical form, ego, I, mind, intellect, entity, person, entity. and to discern experientially, not mentally. We can also, if we have developed a very high capacity of intellect, to understand deeply the things we read in the books, but it's not enough. We must experientially discern, experience consciousness as it is, and realize that this is something different, distinct than the ego, thoughts, emotions, and the physical form. And this is a question of experience. Realization and awakening is something experiential, not intellectual. Intellectual understanding is important, necessary to practice, but what is needed is the experience to discern experientially. For example, here and now, you are there and listen. You are listening to me. You feel your body. You feel also that I speak about as if I was you. I listen to Atman. This I. Where does this I belong? What is this I truly? What this I is? This sense of I, what really is? It belongs to the body, or it is something different than the body? And if it's something different, where exactly exists this I? It's here, 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 here. Where this I exists? You can locate this I. Although we could say that you can feel this I in different places, but not everywhere. So, by focusing our attention in the physical form and the sense of I, we can discriminate, we can discern between the physical form and the energetic form of the I-ness or I. We can experience this separately somehow to the degree are capable to do this. It is not something I can or I cannot. We need to develop this capacity of discrimination and attention to maintain our focus of attention where we want to keep it steadily, and to develop this capacity of discrimination or discernment so that to experience these two things apparently one as two different things. It is needed a very high capacity of discernment to do this. But we can do this. It is something we can do if we want to do. And then another aspect important of discrimination is to discriminate or discern between the sense of I and the physical form, of course, and this inner silent space of consciousness. To discern this silent space of consciousness from the sense of I and the physical form. To see them as two different things. Another important discrimination is the discrimination between thoughts and emotions. When we think about something, we experience the emotional state or the expression of emotion as if belonged to the imagination and thinking. That's why many teachers say that thoughts create emotions. In reality, what happens is exactly the opposite. The emotions cause thoughts and project themselves on the thoughts. It's like the screen in the cine. There is the film of the projector or the images of the projector. Now we have digital. There is no films, physical film, but there is a digital projection of the how we call this projector. There is a projector which is very small, and we have this technology of digital technology. Then we can project these images on the wall or whatever. In the same way, as the projector projects the images on a wall, the emotions are projected on the wall of thoughts and imagination. So we feel as if the emotions belonged to the thoughts and the imagination, or the images that our mind creates. But they are two different elements. Another simile example is the cine. We see we can see also now in our sorry. We can see this in our mobile cell phone or the PC. We can see a movie, and we see the actors and actresses to play the game of the movie, and we see and we experience feelings and emotions, and we feel that this actor feels sad or happy or whatever, and in reality they are our feelings and emotions projected on these images we see on the screen of our PC or cell phone. What we see on the screen of our cell phone has no emotions. They are just images, just light. But because of this automatic functioning of projection, our emotions are projected on the screen, and more specifically on the actors that we see on the screen. And so we see them as being happy or being sad or being whatever being. But what we see in them are only our feelings and emotions. They are only images, only light playing on the screen, nothing else. In the same way, our emotions and feelings are projected on the thoughts and images that our mind creates. And in reality, the emotions are like psychic entities in our psyche, which use thoughts and imagination to experience themselves once and again. They use them, emotions, use thoughts, images, imagination, and sensory impressions to experience themselves again and again. It's something like this. These two things we call identification and projection happen constantly in our experience. And because of these two main functions we call identification and projection, we live in ignorance and unconsciousness. They delude us totally. Both. And there is another aspect we call in Advaita Vedanta, non-duality, we call non-duality in the West, superimposition. In Adhyaropa, it is called in Sanskrit Adhyaropa. There is another also term, but what this Adhyaropa means, it means superimposition. So we have identification, projection, and superimposition. An example of superimposition is the moonlight. the sunlight is projection on the surface of the moon. And superimposition means the function, because of it, appears this sunlight as if it was something that belongs to the moon. It is called superimposition. It is imposed. The sunlight is imposed on the moon and appears to be as an expression of the moon, while in reality the sunlight belongs to the sun and it is only reflected on the moon. But due to lack of discrimination and superimposition and identification, also there is identification, means that this sunlight belongs to the moon, it is superimposed on the moon and belongs to the moon. That means identification. So you see, identification, projection, identification, superimposition. The same happens with consciousness. Consciousness, it is projected through the ego on the physical form and identifies with this, and it is superimposed on the physical form, as if it was this consciousness part of the body. The same happens with the mind and the ego. The consciousness is projected on the mind and the ego and is superimposed and identified with them. That means as if this consciousness belonged to the mind and the ego, while it is not this the reality. The reality is that consciousness is something different than the mind and the ego, something different than the physical form. Because of lack of discrimination and knowledge and the conditioning of the mind and false beliefs, etc., we cannot discern and realize that consciousness is something different than the mind, the ego, and the physical form. So simple. So the whole process of spirituality, whatever may be, that means whether we follow the bhakti path, the path of the bhakti, devotion, or jnana yoga, the path of knowledge, or whatever, the main objective is to realize that we are not the body, mind, me entity we thought we were. We were. And what we really are is this empty space of consciousness. Now, what's the difference between the paths? The difference is the means through which we intend to realize this. That's the difference, the main difference. It's a great difference because devotional practices, we could say, are totally different than the practices of a jnana yoga or practitioner of the path of knowledge. And what is better? Better is what fits to us, is better for us. There is no this is better or this bad or good or whatever. And in my experience, the better approach is one, to practice all of the main paths and focus mostly to the ones that are more close, resonate more with them. In my case, bhakti, devotion, and jnana yoga have a very, they are so of the same importance. I love both. I love bhakti. I love also knowledge. I mean, to discriminate, to use the capacities of discrimination, observation, discrimination, reflection, inquiries, so that to realize or to discern what I am from what I'm not. However, I enjoy fully to practice mantras, devotional hymns, the arti I love to chant the arti of for Babaji, for example. Not for example, this is the only one I do. I love so much Babaji, and I love so much all these hymns that include that the arti, not only arti, all these parts of the hymns that we chant for Babaji and Kyriakantes etc. I love a lot to do this. But also I enjoy to discriminate, to discern, to inquire. Both for me have the same importance, and I love both. And also I love to help others to, um, to share my knowledge and understanding, experience based on experience, understanding and knowledge based on experience most of all, and also what I have read, but mostly on experience, to share this with others to help them have progress in their inner journey, inner path. I enjoy also this to share, which is, we could say, part of the karma yoga. I like to help. I enjoy to help others in this inner journey. So this is what I wanted to say about the consciousness and the reflection of consciousness. I wanted also to say this. Nisargadatta Maharaj gave as a main practice for the ones that went to his home, which is also a small ashram, not ashram, but anyway, he gave them their every day, morning and evening satsang and knowledge. I love also Nisargadatta a lot because he helped me to realize my true nature. Although Babaji is my favorite, we would say, or that belongs to my heart first of all and most of all. I have a very, how to say, I love also Nisargadatta a lot, and he helped me to realize my true nature. It's a very strange phenomenon. Although Babaji is my main uh, teacher in my heart, not my main, in my heart mostly. Awakening happened because through the reflection on the sayings of Nisargadatta Maharaj in the book of the very well known book I'm That. Life is a very strange phenomenon. Anyway, I love both Nisargadatta, but most of all Babaji. Here comes Babaji. So Nisargadatta gave us a main practice, this we could say meditation on the sense I am. He told all people, fix your mind, your attention on this sense I am, so that to stop identifying yourself with everything else, anything else, like thoughts, emotions, etc., 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 and the external objects as well, because you have centered on this sense I am, you can overcome all identifications. I didn't find easy this, and that's why I didn't follow this. I just mentioned now, but as I told you before, I mix devotion, mantra repetition, prayer, bhakti, uh, meditation, of course. Um, and I used this practice of I am. I integrated this practice I am later because I started with Babaji 2002, and I started to read the book of I am in the year 2007, after 6 years. I was very engaging in the teachings of Babaji, practicing the teaching of Babaji. Of course, I had also some knowledge from the previous spiritual teaching I was following for 10 years, the Gnostic, Universal Gnostic movement of Samuel Onveor, a teacher from Latin America, I think Colombia or Mexico. And I was fully engaged in this Gnostic teaching. After this, I went to India. I met Babaji, not Babaji himself, but his teaching and his ashrams. So I had this amazing experience with Babaji. I cannot say beyond words. I'm very grateful that I met Babaji. That Babaji came in my life, and I have this opportunity for 8 years, 8 years, something like this, to practice in the ashrams of Herakan ashram and Chileanol ashram Raniket. And this experience, this practice, this changed my life. And around 2007, I started to read the books of Ramana Maharshi, and mostly at that time, mostly of Nisargadatta, especially I am. Other books also, but mostly I am. I have a very good relation with this book. Others say that this is not the important because after some years, Nisargadatta gave more advanced teachings. I didn't see anything. For me, all teachings of Maharaj are so simple and so always focused on the same thing. I don't know what different things he had said later, but since awakening happened, I didn't need anything to know much more knowledge than this, because knowledge is necessary to experience what the knowledge is meant to help us to experience. So after this, so I started to reflect on the sayings of Nisargadatta, and happened this awakening, and then I started to integrate the I am meditation, as it is called, in my practice, but combining this I am meditation with the mantra Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, and feeling the sense I am, and through this sense I am. This sense I am, this focus on the sense I am, helped me to connect with the inner silence, to enter in the deeper part of existence, the inner silence. So, but Nisargadatta gave only this practice. I also have read that he gave also mantras to some people that they were not ready to follow solely this I am meditation. He gave also mantras, or I don't know what more. Anyway, for me, since I practiced for many years Om Namah Shivaya, and I did also meditation with Om Namah Shivaya, I just integrated this I am meditation with the mantra. What does it mean? Instead of focusing, for example, in the heart chakra or third eye chakra, saying the mantra, focusing on the third eye, I was, and I still say the mantra, focusing on the sense I exist, and through this in the inner silence. And this is it. So that I say this because I just give you a suggestion. You can use this also. I don't know how you practice meditation or how you practice japanama, repetition of mantra. In both cases, whether you practice repetition of mantra just for repetition, or doing repetition of mantra with the intention to enter in this silent space of consciousness to reach this state we call meditation, you can use the sense I am along with the mantra. Some say you can say the mantra resonating in resonance with the breathing process. Om, inhale. Om, exhale, Namah Shivaya. Om, like this. In my case, I didn't like a lot to do this. I did this only for some time, just to have the experience. And most of the time, I practiced focusing on the sound of the mantra and to focus on the fade out while we say the mantra Om. The sound little by little fades out. So I was focused on the mantra in the beginning and little by little to the silence remaining after the full subsiding of the mantra, of the sound of the mantra. And then I used, instead of using the sound and the fade out of the sound, I used the sense I am, or both. And for me, these two method techniques, you can say this as you like, method or technique. And by doing this, it was for me the easiest way to connect and become aware of the inner silence, following the diminution of the sound of the mantra. And when the mantra disappears, remain silent. So I was focusing on the silence. Or saying the mantra, focusing on the sense I am, which is very subtle. Not I am this or that. For me, it's better to say I exist. This sense of existence, I exist. Om Namah Shivaya, and I feel that exist. Om Namah Shivaya, and I feel that exist. And this sense of existence is so subtle. That's why very easily we can become aware of the inner silence. Of course, it is it is needed practice. We need practice. So the more we practice this, the easier it becomes to experience this sense of existence and the inner silence, entering the silence. It's just a matter of interest and practice. So this is the two ways we can use mantra and for meditation, to connect with the inner silence, focusing on the sound of the mantra and to follow the sound until this subsides, totally fades out and subsides and disappears. So we remain focused on the silence. But better than this, or equal effective, is to focus on the sense of existence, saying the mantra Om Namah Shivaya, but without identifying ourselves with the mantra, with the sound of mantra, but feeling at the same time this sense of existence, entering in this sense. It's not a sense, physical sense or energetic. It's something difficult to describe or to say what is this sense of existence. It's something so subtle. So you feel this sense of existence, and by entering this, the silent space that surrounds everything, it becomes more and more obvious. So you may try what appears better to you. So this reflected consciousness, this I amness, this sense of existence is the reflected consciousness of consciousness that experienced when it reflects on the mind. And tells you this sense of presence, that I am conscious. Now you hear me, and you feel that you are conscious, not feel. You are aware that you are conscious. This is the reflected consciousness. Pure consciousness is this deep silence within, this deeper silence, which is beyond presence and sense of existence. This is the difference. The inner silence, there is no sense of existence. It's beyond this. Nor presence. Is something indescribable. Absolute emptiness. Pure silence. Pure or total stillness. This is the stillness of our being beyond the sense of existence and presence. It's deeper. That's why Nisargadatta used to say, when this I amness disappears, what remains is what you really are, beyond description. So we have the mantra, we have the sense of existence, and we have the silence. When the mantra disappears, I mean that all the rest have disappeared somehow. At least are so, they are so, how to say, abstract in our experience. Okay, it's something we hear, don't hear. So there is the mantra, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. There is the sense of existence. There is silence. When mantra disappears, the sense of existence disappears. What remains is what we really are. Stillness. Nothingness. Beyond words. Always here and now in the present moment, in the timeless now, in the timeless present moment, present. Not presence, I said before. It is this inner, deeper silence is always present. It's here and now. Unattached and unaffected. Nothing can destroy this stillness. So when the mind loses itself in this stillness, there is only stillness. We lose ourselves. We disappear. To say like this, we disappear. Although the form can exist, but not for us. There is only silence. Beyond this, there is nothing. That's why the teachings of Advaita say there is only a non-dual consciousness. What does it mean? There is no another principle aside to this principle we call consciousness. One without a second. That's why they say non-dual. Of course, non-dual means that there is no duality between us and this consciousness. Only this consciousness exists, and this consciousness is what we are. Thank you for being with me. This is what I wanted to share with you. I wish you peace, love, and light. I wish you be free from all conditioning, which makes us suffer in various ways, and realize your true nature in this very life, and live more and more the peace and love you are, and freedom, and less all miseries which are the product of this conditioning in the form of fear, anxieties, boredom, insatisfaction, dissatisfaction, insufficiency, lack. I lack this, I want this, loneliness, insecurity, etc., etc. I wish you peace, love, and light. Have a nice day. Om Namah Shivaya. Bole Baba ki jai.